Hello, everybody. We now have control of your system. We control the horizontal and the vertical, and I reverse those things. So this is the horizontal, and this is the vertical, and this is the mouse, and it's going crazy. Ooh. Play jump rope. Jump rope, jump rope, jump rope, jump rope, jump rope, jump rope. So this has nothing to do with the game that we're playing. But no, okay, let's go to the game. Whoa, what is this? Whoa, okay. See? It's transitions. See, he did the same thing. Isn't that cute? Anyways. Hello, everybody. My name is T.S. McNally, Tantroo McNally. I'm here to play a game with you. But you're first going to play this game. I would recommend you play this game before I go through and review this game. It's a very, very short game, and like my previous video on Nicky Case thing, he came out with this one recently. He sort of likes to do this whole using games as sort of a sociological commentary into human sociology and psychology and stuff like that. And this one goes over, he's done some ones like the Parable of Polygons, which I played, and I'll put a link up in the window. That's my favorite one. It's still my favorite one, despite this one being his newest one. Parable of Polygons is still my favorite one, and I'll go over that when I go over that. There is he also had Nothing to Hide, which talked about social media and us being sort of a self-surveillance thing. It was kind of an anti-stealth game. He played around with it a little bit. I don't think he like completed it because he's trying to make a whole game out of it. But by the time, the problem with making games about, and this is probably a challenge that he faces a lot. The problem with making, games about sociological issues is that a lot of sociological issues are like flash in the pan. Like there's something here. We're talking about something today, and then we're talking about something else tomorrow, and it doesn't tend to stay in one place a lot of the times. But media portrayal has been around since the 50s, man. It's been around for a long time. Like, what's this new video stuff we have, and what kind of power do we have? But it's getting more and more, pretentious as the time goes on. It's getting more and more as not only do these people, quote unquote, people who are responsible have this power, but there's also individuals who have this power. And that's kind of what this game goes over. So that's why you should play it first. You should be in the driver's seat when you play the game the first time. I've played this a few times myself, so when I play through it for this video, I'm going to go over my sort of reviewing on kind of what I feel about it in the moment, and then we'll go to camera, and then we'll talk about media and stuff like that, and its influences and stuff like that, and my critiques for this. There are some flaws, and I'll go over that when I go over that. So let's start. You've played it, right? Because if you watch me play it first, you're not going to have the emotional impact that he's trying to do here, as I said. So, well, I guess you've watched it. Hit the pause button. Pause and go play it. Okay, you played it. Okay, we're going. We become what we behold. We shape our tools, and then our tools shape us. Marshall McLuhan, misattributed. That's funny because that quote's kind of funny, and I did have a chuckle at it because it's saying that our tools shape us, and then they're saying, oh, well, here's a quote, and then, oh, it's misattributed. So they tried to shape your thing. Oh, that guy said that. So this is you point and click. It's a camera, so you can click anywhere. And then, just some normal people. And so there's a cricket. And then you can click somewhere else, say click these guys, and then it's they're just some normal people. So obviously you see this guy in a hat. So what's the interesting thing going on here? I mean, there's got to be someone interesting or something going on here. But there's a cricket. Maybe we can catch the cricket. Little cricky! Yay! But still, no real reaction. And then those 3 crickets go. And then, well, that's way too many crickets. Okay. No locust ending? Come on. The max I get is 3 crickets. Come on, Nicky. Come on. Alright, so obviously they want me to pay attention to this guy right here. This guy must be important. He's wearing a snazzy hat. And yep, the audience agrees. It's like, yeah, man, we got the snazzy hats. So what that was is, it's teaching you the mechanic of the game. It's saying, here's the mechanic. You say, oh, you find interesting things, you take pictures of it. So obviously these two guys are interesting. Now it's like, hey, the circle and square guys are in love, and oh, get a room, you two. And then they're like, oh, we're embarrassed, we're gonna run away. So now we got more guys with hats, and oh wait, never mind. Hats aren't cool anymore. Take those off, you has-beens. You're has-beens too. Take those hats off. So you see that people react to perceptions and things like that, and that's kind of how they introduce the concept. Now, so this guy is going around screaming at people all of a sudden, and wow, what is your problem, buddy? Whoa! Oh, I just missed it. What was it I was supposed to hit? Oh, him screaming at the dude, right? So I gotta wait for him to go scream at the dude. Oh, just missed it again. My clicking fan's not fast enough. Good thing this isn't a first-person shooter. I'd be done for. There we go. Square attacks. So this one guy's like, oh gosh, there's crazy squares. So he's walking around like going, okay, okay, oh gosh, there's a square. Oh gosh. Circle, fierce squares. Really? Oh, really? Well, it's 'cause I'm a square, huh? Well. Huh. Well. Hey, where'd he go? Don't walk around me, man. I can't see you. There you go. Mr. You gotta catch them doing something. Yes, I know I missed you. Being snobby. There we go. Nope. So, my, see, hopefully I don't have to edit that out. Square, snub, circles. How dare he! So, now if you go up here, so that's interesting what's going on here. It's like, so what are these nerds doing now? And it's like, okay, well, that's kind of boring. So, if you realize here that, so who wants to see people getting along? How boring. So, interestingly, this guy was the same guy yelling and being angry earlier, and basically those circle square guys, like he was angry at everybody. And then basically those square circle guys came up and said, those guys that I basically shamed earlier came up and gave him a hat and said, hey man, everything's cool, you're happy now. But the impact that he had has transitioned from outside of himself. And now the residual of my talking about him being angry all the time is no longer relevant, of that square attacking the guy, because this guy's happy as can be, but yet the media reports of which I had been presenting earlier have caused this thing. So, I mean, I could take pictures of this guy and it's like, peace is boring, we don't want peace, we want this thing. So I gotta watch this guy, and he's gonna get angry at somebody who's a square. Walk around. Circle hates squares. Okay, so now we're getting there. So now these guys are angry and they're walking around and they're getting angry at people, and so yeah, missed it. Man, I am terrible at this reacting. I'm padding out my video, that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to make my video count longer so that it gets more YouTube revenue. That's what it is. Alright, and then these guys are going to get angry. Yeah, you're angry, everyone's angry. And the funny thing is, like, the one guy who was angry before is just happy around with his heart hat. Oh, there we go. Circle hates squares. And then more people are angry. And now what you see here is those two people that gave him the hat earlier up here protesting and saying, dudes, get along. It's like we don't need this. And it's like this is peaceful. We don't want that. People want more fear. They want more anger. And then they're missing it again. I mean, there's so many of them, and I still miss them. Almost everyone hates everyone. So the interesting thing here is that people want to see the unusual thing, and now this is the more usual thing, and I'll come over this later. But this is the more interesting thing because these guys are different, but all these guys are the same and angry. Yet everyone hates everyone. So here's the final setup. See this guy right here? Ain't so cool no more. Huh. What? Uh-oh. I censored that. Oops. So, yeah. That just happened. Be scared. Be angry. Be scared. Be angry. So now we're zooming out of our computer here. Or the whole hashtag universe. I can still take pictures and stuff like that. Be scared. Be angry. So that was that. So here's his credit roll. So the thing of the matter is that it's very much a fixed linear game. And basically you can't really change the narrative. It's a great narrative because it not only had the good solid game mechanics of it. So here's a little thing after the credits where you can kind of see, them kind of doing a memorial for all those who are lost as a result of that massacre. And yeah, it's very powerful. Like the ending is very powerful, obviously, and it talks about like how much, and on the surface though. So we become what we behold. Now, to me, the title of this is very important because a lot of people on the surface, and when I played this multiple times, I can understand what he's saying. But unfortunately, on the surface, a lot of people will go, "Well, yeah, the media is stupid. They just concentrate on conflict all the time. They concentrate on conflict so much." And so now we're going to go into the review session. So I'm going to get let me get this going here, and we'll get off here. So now, so hey, so that's why I couldn't read most of that stuff because I'm in suit. But anyways, so let's talk about what we just witnessed there. So on the surface, and a lot of the pitching of this game seems to be around the thing is like. A lot of people are like, "Oh, this means the media has to be careful of what they do and what they portray to the public and stuff like that." And a lot of people will take that into consideration. But when you play it multiple times, when you play it the second time, like I play it the first time and I'm like, "Okay, that was surprising." I was like, "I wonder if I can change what's happening," and I couldn't do that because I couldn't do it basically because of a certain element, and that element to me is very important. And it also kind of ties in with the title of the game. The important thing is that, we have this issue where Thanks, Kat. You ruined my line of thought. Anyways, the problem is that it's not really, you don't have control over the media. Like, you don't have control over the perception of the pictures that you take. Now, it shows that, well, because here's the thing. You could remove the player element entirely from the game, from this particular universe. And the problem is that when you do that, and let's say I had a computer just taking random pictures anywhere, the only time the audience is going to react is when it reacts to the things that the game is programmed to respond to. And that's kind of, to me, an important element. It's like we become what we behold. Well, what does the game itself behold? The game itself beholds that you take the pictures that it wants to do to advance its narrative, right? So, in this case, it's the violent and action pictures. The interesting thing is that people can observe the world around them. They can see the world around them. It's the things that stand out that people tend to draw to. And this is my critique of the game. And this is my main critique of the game. Is that when we have this issue where in my mind, what human beings do in cases of being violence-starved or being, peace-starved is, in essence, a part of the environment around them, from what I can tell. So, to me, yes, when everything was relatively peaceful and this one circle guy is snubbing this square, that's an interesting thing. It's different. It's not something that's happening outside of, it's not the norm. But at the end game, to me, the thing that was interesting and most newsworthy to me was those two standing in protest, defying most of the other guys. But yet the game decided, no, that's not the direction I want you to go. So to me, the more important element here, and this is probably going to go against what a lot of people are going to talk about, is like, oh man, it is kind of a horror story. It is kind of a warning story on what we portray to other people. As individuals start to become more the media, because individuals are replacing the media. Basically, it used to be just a handful of people would have these nice cameras and could point stories and do all this stuff. Everyone has a camera on them now, so they could take pictures of whatever they want to portray whatever they want. And it's really up to them to try to be responsible. Now, interestingly, coming from a furry who worked on basically fictional pieces, news articles. I work on fiction too, but I work on news articles for Flair as a furry website. I did that when I was still very much active, and I hope it still in the future becomes more active and returns to being at least a somewhat active site. But that aside, I've been on both sides of the aisle. As a furry, every furry's been a victim of negative portrayals in the media. We very much have a negative portrayal of mainstream media because of it. It's soured our mood to it. At the same time, I have an experience of writing articles and news articles and trying to portray nonfiction and trying to, draw that line between seeing, telling a story that's important to people and yet not, trying to, grandeur it up and cause people to, get all angry as was portrayed there. But the interesting thing is that as you, in that game sense, and this is kind of the tragedy of it, is that there is nothing you can do because there is a higher power at play saying this is the stuff you need to take pictures of and this is the stuff that the audience will react to. And in a way, that is reality. And that's the beauty somewhat of this game a little bit, is that when you play it multiple times, you start to realize it's like you're not in control. You might feel like you're in control because you have a camera. Yeah, us citizens have control. Yeah, we could take pictures and we can see all this stuff and we can do all these things. You know what I mean? We have this power to take pictures and show the world what we see. But we don't have the power to control the way the world sees it. Or if we're doing it for money and if we're doing it for a living, we don't have control over what brings in the revenue. And that is the scary thing. That is the missing thing, that we become what we behold. But the things that we take pictures of become what we influence through our actions, through what we say, through what we react to. Because the player is punished whenever they take a picture of something that's not newsworthy or hashtag worthy or whatever. Every time they take a picture of it, a cricket comes up. And that influences the player to go, okay, I'm not supposed to take pictures of these things. Like, I take a picture of these peaceful protesters. Oh, it crickets at me. I don't want to do that then. So the game is influencing me in this direction. Thusly, it really is the audience that has the power. Because here's the thing. I'm going to have this video up on the YouTubes. It's only going to get 30 views at most. Or maybe 100 if I'm lucky. But that's the thing. I'm saying something here that might be important, but it might not be important to everyone. And thus, the things that are important to most people, or the things that are easiest to understand, are conflicts. Conflicts are easy to understand because our brains are wired into conflict mode. So as soon as you can pop up a conflict and ruffle it up and get the feathers go and get it down to one of the more primal urges, such as, sex, drugs, all this crazy stuff. If you can get it down to that level, then man, you're golden, man, because that's what the people want. That's what the people want to see, right? So, but they're in control. So that means it's like, oh, I can cover all these brainy topics and boring intellectual blah, 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 blah. This guy's talking my ear off, man. This is so boring. I'm going to go watch something else right now. It's what you're saying. It's what you're saying. I know. You watch one of my videos and that's the first thing that comes to your head. Man, this guy's full of himself and this guy is blah, 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 intellectual, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go watch something else. See, that's the thing. We are what we behold, right? So maybe we ought to think more. Maybe we ought to have intellectual discussions more. Maybe we ought to influence intellectual thought more instead of, propping up simple, ideas and stuff like that. Simpler, more base attributes like conflict and violence. And, but the problem is that to people who are in a peaceful society, since violence is not the norm, it's the thing that's the most quote unquote interesting. And this is my critique of the game, as I said. To me, if we were back in say World War II, the peaceful things, the good things are the things that people would want to read. The story about peace, the story about the family, the story about, making, surviving and living. Those stories in a conflict-saturated world mean more to people because it is not seen as the norm. Because all you see in the media and all you see in the world is bombs, tanks, guns, all this stuff, just saturating the horridness and the horror of it, saturating one's mind's eye every day. And the people out there do that. So to people in conflict-saturated environments, peaceful stories, laughter and fun and things like that have more of a staple to me. And so to me, that's kind of the check and balance. Is that in our peaceful time, which it is relatively peaceful, despite instances of violence that pop up here and there, those instances of violence are headline grabbing, are latched onto because they are, so infrequent. They're so, they're so not as frequent as it used to be. Now, there are certain elements and certain issues that are more common or might be seen more common than they should be. but overall, violent crime is down. Overall, overall, the violence in society is declining. Overall, it's just that we see more of it on a day-to-day basis because we have cameras everywhere. And that's the thing. You can literally have a camera at every square inch of... You can have like in this game, you can have a camera at every square inch. And if all people do is react to the bad stuff, if all people do is react to the things that is conflict oriented, then you get the problem that you have in the game. Fortunately, I don't think the world works like that. I think people do get sick of the media talking about bad things all the time. There are a lot of people out there who I hear panic all the time and go, man, the news media is talking about that again. Man, there's no good news anymore, so I'm just going to turn it off. There's a lot of people who have turned off news entirely from their mind's eye. And I know a lot of furries who don't keep up with current events. There's a lot of furries who don't keep up with current events, okay? I could tell you, I'm rare. Finding a furry who's ever interested in current events is completely... You know why? Because the current events is saturated with conflict and nastiness, and it just keeps getting worse and worse. Even though, relatively speaking, things aren't, things aren't as bad as they used to be. To me, the most concerning thing is this: is there's certain patterns in history. And to me, and if I could go back in a time machine and understand a little bit better, I wonder what the world was like during the Roaring '20s. I wonder what the world was like, after the Great Depression. Because here's the thing: it's like the Great Depression happened in 1929, but the World War II didn't happen until about a decade later. So, even though things things start to recover, there's still a lot of resentment in those who lost. And I think that's, in essence, at the end of the day, kind of what happened with this whole Donald Trump thing, and why I'm glad that it's sort of stemming, but hopefully whoever gets into office, it's probably not going to be Donald Trump at this point, but whoever gets into office really does improve things and improves them quickly, because stagnant recovery is just going to make those who lost still resentful, because they still lost and they felt like they lost and it wasn't anything in their control. And to those who lost and it wasn't in their control, they will lash out at the world. And interestingly, I think Donald Trump was one of the biggest losers, and not just because of his behavior right now, but because it's like he was in the real estate thing, and then the real estate market crashes, and then he had the issues in the 90s where he lost a lot of money. And so he went into different businesses and he tried to spread himself out, and a lot of his ventures failed. So he kept trying to do new things, and this just happened to be one of his experiments. But he's angry at all of his losses, and he blames it on other people, and so that's why but he holds that in common, okay? And I guess this is kind of off topic. I'll kind of take this clip and I'll put it in something else, but that's kind of why he connects with his constituency, because his constituency legitimately, probably for the most part, felt like they lost something, and they lost something in that recession. They lost something when they came to Obamacare, because they used to have like a copay, and now they have high deductible. And to people who are like 10 years older than me, I felt terrible for them. Because as a young person, I didn't really have insurance much to begin with. So I was like, okay, high deductible, sure, I can work with that. I just need to save a little more money. But because I'm a saver and not a spender anyway, that was fine. But the issue is that to those who weren't used to saving for medical emergencies, and those who were used to getting a copay, they're like, oh gosh, what the heck? So anyways, that's probably going to be completely cut out of the video, because that's completely off topic. But anyway, this is the kind of interesting thing about the news media and how it portrays and things like that, because a lot of people are talking about this kind of thing right now because of the whole Donald Trump thing. Is because it's like, how much is the media responsible for Donald Trump? Because every time he said something crass, there they were, zooming in their lens, and then people would react to it, and then they would zoom in the lens again because more people are reacting to it. And then, so this is kind of why this is a very powerful thing at the moment. But the interesting thing is that it is the audience. And the thing at the take of the way at the end of the day is that you cannot control the audience. But the audience, so it is up to the audience, and it's up to the people everywhere, every individual, to understand the power that they hold when they give people views for certain things. When they give people views to a violent video, when you give people views to these things. And it's not that you don't care, it's just that you should go out of your way to look up news stories about good events in your local communities. Because that will be the thing. That is the thing that needs to change. That is the thing that needs to be. Find good stories about good things happening in your neighborhood, in your city, and go out there and make good stories of your own. And promote those good stories. Make it so that those are the things that we see things. And of course there's always going to be conflicts. There's always going to be these rock-shaking, dramatic events, but overcoming those things and the story of people overcoming that strife, to me, is far more important than the rest. That ending clip where that those two were sitting there, those two had overcome it, but they couldn't stop it. They couldn't do anything because no one would listen to them. It doesn't matter how many times you take a picture of those two guys, no one listens to them. So everyone just goes about their own way. And the most tragic part about the story, and this was kind of I like what he did in the narrative here, where the square guy who was angry and bitter and walking around was basically the catalyst for the whole massacre. But by the time the massacre comes around, he is its worst victim. He's not the perpetrator, as much as anger and as bitter as he is. He overcame that anger, but because we were portraying something and not really focusing on the story, we were focusing on the conflict of the moment and not the initial conflict that caused it, and saying, did those people change in time? And that's actually somewhat genius, and I love it, and I really give him high praise for it, because if you think about how sociological conflicts work, especially on like the macro scale, when you think about conflicts between, it's like Germany used to be our enemy, and Britain used to be our enemy, and this guy used to be our enemy, but now they're cool now. But the conflicts that were caused, that the immigration and the people moving around that was caused by the conflicts we had with those nations, has caused the conflicts in other nations that we deal with today, which has nothing to do with the conflicts right now. So basically it's like, hey, that guy with the hat's cool. Oh, well, now he's the killer. Which was kind of cool that they used the element of, hey, this is the guy we're using to teach you the game mechanic, and he ends up being the antagonist for the whole thing. That was also kind of cool. That was what they call bookending, okay? You have the same thing at the beginning and the same thing at the end. So I've been rambling for a good bit for this thing, and so I think I made my point, and that is, it's up to the audiences. It's up to the audience to dictate, because we don't have, like, the people with the cameras don't have the power. They're just trying to earn a living. And as individuals, we try to take pictures, and we try to take cameras, and we try to post things that might get us the most views, because us ourselves are drawn to popularity, are drawn to, doing things that people want to see all the time. But understand this, is that we as audience members need to be more persnickety, need to be more open to the fact that we have some influence over the kinds of stories that we consume and we show desire of consuming. And so that is something that is going to be hard to do, because I like me a good junk story more than anyone else, but at the end of the day, we need to make good stories. You know what I mean? So that's all I gotta say about that. I'm getting to hop out here. Click the like, subscribe, comment buttons. My rambling of a game that was only 5 minutes long, probably over 10 minutes. It's incredible how much I gab. Don't worry. There'll be more, and it'll probably be something more important next time. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good one. See you.